It hit me before the coffee even cooled. I'd just opened Facebook, same as every Mother's Day, expecting maybe a nice photo or one of those copy-paste "love you mom" posts. Instead, I saw Anna, my daughter, smiling beside her fiancé, Zach's mother. The caption, "Happy Mother's Day to my real mom. Thank you for showing me what unconditional love truly means." Real mom. I read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't just sting, they burned. My hand trembled, my vision blurred. But I still managed to type, "Your real mom can pay for the wedding too." 5 minutes later, the post was gone, but not before I took a screenshot. Some part of me hoped it was a mistake, a joke. Maybe she'd explain. But my phone stayed silent. The same daughter who used to call me 3 times a day in college didn't even have the decency to reply. It wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. The timing, Mother's Day. The caption, the photo, the real mom. It wasn't some passive oversight. It was a message. She wanted the world to see me as forgotten, replaced. She wanted them, Evan's family, to see her loyalty, her new allegiance. I sank into the kitchen chair, the one Tom always used. He died 6 years ago, and not a day went by that I didn't miss his steady presence. If he were here, he'd say, "Let her post what she wants. We know the truth." But this wasn't just about pride or social media. This was about everything I had given her and everything she'd just thrown away with a single click. I picked up the printed wedding folder from the counter, the one she left here weeks ago, expecting me to keep paying and nodding along. It still had the sticky notes I added, the ones she never acknowledged. Flipping through it now, I couldn't believe what I'd become. The silent wallet, the ignored helper, the invisible mother. But I wasn't invisible anymore. I printed the screenshot, slid it into the folder. Then I called Ms. Carter, my lawyer since Tom passed. "Margaret," she answered, cheerful as always. "Happy Mother's Day." I let out a bitter laugh. "Well, that depends on who you ask. I've got something I'd like to show you." Because if Anna wanted to play this game in public, she was about to find out how very real it could get. Later that afternoon, while the screenshot still lay on my kitchen table like evidence in a trial, my mind wandered back, uninvited, unstoppable. It was Mother's Day 10 years ago. Anna was 20, home from college for the weekend. She'd used the tiny oven in our rental to bake me a crooked chocolate cake. The icing was a mess. "Best Mom," written in shaky letters that slanted down the right side like they were sliding off a cliff. The whole house smelled like burnt sugar and effort. She'd been so proud, so earnest. Her eyes sparkled when I cut the first slice. We ate it on the couch, cross-legged in our pajamas, watching a Lifetime movie and laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. I still have the photo. She'd wrapped her arms around me, her cheek pressed to mine. I looked tired, but happy, completely unaware that there would be a day she'd not only forget that moment, she'd erase it. How does a daughter go from that to this? It wasn't the post alone. It was what it meant. It said, "You're no longer the woman who raised me, sacrificed for me, prayed over me while you folded my laundry." It said, "You don't fit the image I want now." I guess Evan's mother, Sandra, fit that mold better. Wealthy, polished, always arriving in expensive heels and flawless lipstick, even to backyard barbecues. The kind of woman who called Anna darling and booked spa weekends for just the two of them, without ever inviting me. It had always made me feel small. But I never said a word. I didn't want to be the bitter mom, the jealous one. I told myself it was good Anna had another woman to look up to. But now I saw it clearly. Sandra wasn't a bonus. She was the replacement. And me? I was just a practice mom. I pulled out a shoebox from under the hutch, the one where I kept old photos and handwritten cards. There it was, the crumpled best mom note she'd scribbled on notebook paper that same year. At the bottom, she'd written, "One day, I'll buy you the house you deserve. You've done so much for me, Mom." I touched the edge of that paper with shaking fingers. My heart ached with something worse than anger, grief. Because the girl who wrote that, she doesn't exist anymore. This wasn't new. Mother's Day was just the day I finally stopped pretending not to notice. Looking back, it had been building, like water rising slowly in a sink, drip by drip, insult by insult, subtle things, quiet slights. I brushed off to keep the peace. Because that's what mothers do, right? We let it go. We give the benefit of the doubt. We don't want to believe our own child could ever be cruel. But now I see it all with painful clarity. It started with the wedding plans. I thought you'd want to sit this one out, Mom. I know floral design isn't really your thing. That was her way of saying she didn't want me at the florist. Then it was the cake tasting. She sent photos afterward like I should just be happy to see what I paid for. And that quilt I made, the one I spent 3 months sewing by hand, each patch a piece of her childhood. I gave it to her at her bridal shower. She unwrapped it, held it up with 2 limp fingers, and said with a flat smile, "We're not Amish, Mom." Everyone laughed. I did too. Because that's what I was trained to do. Laugh it off. Be gracious. Be invisible. But the worst part? The things she whispered behind my back. I didn't ask to know. I didn't dig. But the cousins told me anyway. Quietly. Almost apologetically. She told us Evan's family is her real support now. That they're the ones who understand her. Real support. So I guess the woman who raised her after Tom died, who took on extra shifts to cover tuition, who gave up her own retirement to help with the down payment on her first apartment, wasn't real enough. I kept receipts, but not just the kind Miss Carter would care about. I kept emotional ones too. The way she stopped calling me Mom and started saying Margaret when Evan was around. The way she rolled her eyes if I brought up childhood stories. The way she suddenly didn't want my help decorating because my style was a little old school. I'd spent years being generous with time, with money, with grace. And she spent years chipping away at me like I was a statue she needed to reshape until I no longer looked like her mother at all. I'd mistaken tolerance for love. I'd let guilt masquerade as loyalty. But not anymore. I stood in the doorway of the guest room, the one she used to sleep in, and realized something bone deep. This wasn't a one-time insult. This was who she had become. And that meant I had to become someone else too. It would be easier if I could say Anna was a monster, if I could slap some neat, villainous label on her and walk away clean. But that's not how this works. Not with daughters. Not with blood. The truth? Anna was always chasing something she didn't think I could give her. Evan's parents, Sandra and Martin, live in a different world. A world of high-backed chairs, ski trips, and monogrammed towels. They take vacations, off the grid, shop for antiques in Europe, drink wine I can't pronounce. They speak in calm, measured tones that make you feel like raising your voice is a character flaw. Anna was dazzled the moment she met them. And why wouldn't she be? She'd grown up eating Hamburger Helper and splitting Happy Meals on payday. I did what I could, but I was a nurse's aide, not a banker. I couldn't give her silk sheets and private ballet lessons. I gave her casseroles and clearance sales. I gave her scraped knees cleaned with Bactine, and the back of my hand pressed to her feverish forehead. But that was never enough for the woman she became. Evan's mother wears pearls to brunch and calls her friends darling. She glides through rooms like she belongs to all of them. And Anna? Anna looked at her and saw the mother she wished she'd had. I saw it in Anna's posture, the way she straightened her spine around Sandra, the way she mimicked her tone, her walk, even her lipstick shade. She was trying on a new identity. One where Margaret, the woman who raised her, didn't quite fit. I don't think Anna meant to be cruel. Not at first. She was embarrassed. Embarrassed by my outdated shoes. Embarrassed by the way I say wash instead of wash. Embarrassed that I always ask waiters if there's a senior discount. But embarrassment, unchecked, turns into shame. And shame turns into distance. She stopped bringing Evan to our house, started inviting me to coffee shops instead, always neutral spaces, never home. I remember one afternoon in particular. I asked if she'd come over so I could show her the photo album Tom and I made before he passed. She smiled politely and said, "Maybe later. Sandra's taking me to a gallery downtown." I nodded, told her to enjoy herself. Then I sat in that quiet living room, Tom's photo album in my lap, and realized that my daughter was slowly replacing me, piece by piece, with someone shinier. And it broke my heart. But now, I wasn't going to beg for her love anymore. I had something Sandra didn't. I had leverage. She forgot one important thing. While she was busy chasing pearls and praise from Sandra, I was the one quietly holding the checkbook. I wasn't just her mother. I was her silent financier. She liked to tell people Evan's family was blessing them generously. But the truth? That blessing never reached the bank. Evan's parents smiled, toasted, gave advice, but they didn't offer to pay, and Anna didn't ask them to, because she knew I would. I'd already put down $18,500 in deposits. The florist wanted half up front. I paid it. The caterer wouldn't reserve the date without a check. I mailed it. The venue? That country estate she claimed she found on a wine tour with Sandra? She called me in tears 2 days later, saying she felt silly asking Evan's parents for more help and didn't know who else to turn to. So I turned to my late husband's savings. Again, I wasn't the richer family, not by a mile, but I was the more dependable one. Sandra wore designer heels and never touched her wallet. I wore scuffed loafers and paid invoices on time. That's how it always worked. They had wealth, I had commitment. And Anna? She wanted their shine, but still leaned on my sacrifice. She just didn't want anyone to see that. Now, I sat at the dining room table, the same one where Anna once did homework, with every receipt spread out in tidy rows. I hadn't kept them out of spite. I kept them because Tom always told me, never give money without keeping the paperwork. I opened her wedding binder and slid the receipts in, one by one. Each one proof, not just of the money, but of how much I'd let myself be used in silence. She thought I'd keep paying for a celebration I was no longer welcome in. But I'm done funding my own erasure. And no, I wasn't angry when I realized it. Not the wild kind of angry. Anyway, it was quieter, settled, like hearing the last click on a combination lock and knowing something's about to open. She wanted a wedding that looked like Sandra's life. Then she can have Sandra's support too, because I've done enough. I snapped the binder closed, leaned back in my chair, and looked around my kitchen, small, plain, paid in full. She thought I was beneath her now, but I'm the reason that wedding is even possible, and I'm ready to remind her what it means to ignore the one who built the foundation beneath your feet. I emailed the screenshot and the receipts to Miss Carter just before sunset. Subject line, financial involvement, Margaret Harris, message body, time to talk. Miss Carter didn't waste time. Within an hour, my phone lit up with her name. I answered on the second ring. I just read everything, she said. Calm, controlled, the way a woman speaks when she has facts and a license to use them. Margaret, this is substantial. I know. She called someone else her mother in front of 500 people online, and she's letting you pay for a wedding she doesn't want you visible in. I said nothing. I didn't need to. Miss Carter exhaled slowly. If she wants to disown you publicly, we can cut you off financially just as publicly. And cleanly. You're not trapped, Margaret. Not anymore. The relief hit me like cool air in a stale room. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't carrying this entirely alone. I don't want a scene, I said, meaning it, but I want it to be undeniable. That's easy, she replied. We make it legal. Over the next 20 minutes, she walked me through it. A formal withdrawal from all wedding-related contracts, delivered in writing to every vendor with a copy of my receipts attached. A public declaration if necessary, not loud, just factual. A note to family, perhaps. A quiet but firm correction to Anna's narrative. And finally, protection of my late husband's assets. No more discretionary spending. No more emotional emergencies funded on guilt. You still want to give her a gift? Miss Carter asked gently. I swallowed. I want her to learn something, then give her truth and consequences. We ended the call, and I sat in the silence for a long time. My tea had gone cold. The house was quiet. I could hear the neighbor's wind chime tapping against the porch railing, soft and hollow. And then, my phone buzzed. A message from Anna. Quick question. Sandra wants to upgrade the wine package for the reception. Can you cover that too? It's only $600 more. No. Hi, Mom. No apology. No acknowledgement of the post or the comment or anything. Just another request. Like I was her personal ATM. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new email to Ms. Carter. Let's proceed. All of it. I may not have been Anna's real mom anymore, but she was about to learn I was the one with real power. 2 days later, Anna posted a series of photos from her final dress fitting. Her caption read, "Forever grateful to Evan's parents for making this dream come true. Can't believe Sandra bought the dress of my dreams." I stared at it. There she was, twirling in a white lace gown that cost more than I made in my first year of teaching. Smiling wide, Sandra standing next to her, holding the train like she'd earned the right. She wanted applause. For herself, for Sandra, for the fantasy she'd created. A daughter loved and elevated by a refined family. No trace of the mother who raised her, clothed her, fed her, through heartbreak and finals and everything in between. Fine. I left a comment. Just one line. That's lovely. I already handled the venue, caterer, and florist, so everything's covered. Enjoy. I hit post, set my phone down, and went to fold laundry. By the time I came back, the comment had nearly 50 likes. Cousins. Neighbors. My sister in Michigan. No one replied, but people saw it. Anna deleted the post 30 minutes later. But it was too late. The ripple was already out there, and I wasn't ashamed anymore. I wasn't hiding in the shadows of Sandra's shine. If Anna wanted to write a story where I didn't exist, I would leave a trail of facts behind me. Proof that I was never absent, only unacknowledged. I didn't say anything cruel. I didn't argue. I didn't call or text her to explain. I simply reminded her, and everyone else, what she chose to ignore. Sandra might have bought the dress, but I'd already bought the day. And she'd posted that thank you in public, so I answered in public. Later that evening, I got a call from my niece Claire. "I just saw what you wrote," she said, her voice a little breathless. "Good for you, Aunt Margaret. You're being so classy about this, but she's really been awful lately." Claire had noticed. Others had too. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being too sensitive. I'd spent so long second-guessing myself. Maybe I was reading into things. Maybe I was just hurt. But no, it was real. Anna had changed, and now, finally, I had changed too. I sat on the porch that night, wrapped in Tom's old sweater, and felt something I hadn't felt since this whole mess began. Solid, steady, unshakable. She may have erased me online, but I still existed, and now people were starting to remember. That night, I pulled out the ledger Tom and I used to keep. The leather was cracked, but the binding held. Just like our values, he used to say, "We don't throw money at problems, we plan around them." Well, now I had a problem with a name, a wedding date, and a public history of pretending I didn't exist. But I also had a plan. This wasn't about bitterness anymore, not about being forgotten in a Facebook caption. That hurt, yes, but it wasn't the core. The core was this. My daughter stood on a foundation I built, and now she was stomping on it, trying to plant someone else's flag. And I won't let her keep pretending I was never part of it. This isn't revenge, it's reclamation. Because what Anna doesn't know is that Tom's savings, the one I'm using for these wedding expenses, wasn't just a bank account. It was his retirement, his teaching bonuses, his life insurance, and every dollar we pinched after he got sick. We saved it for family, for future, for something that meant something. Not for show, not for status. Certainly not for someone to spend while pretending the source was someone else. I called Miss Carter again the next morning. "Margaret," she answered quickly, "you're moving fast. I'm done waiting. I've already sent preliminary withdrawal notices to the vendors," she said. "But we can go further. We can put a freeze on anything not yet invoiced. And if Anna tries to use your name again for credit, we shut it down." Her silence held approval. Then I said it. Clearly. Finally. I'm protecting what Tom built. I'm protecting what I kept alive. That's when I knew what this really was. It wasn't about reclaiming a seat at the wedding or forcing Anna to say thank you in front of people she wanted to impress. It was about making sure our legacy, mine and Tom's, was honored, even if it meant walking away from the person we raised. I won't let her erase us to impress people who only just met her. I won't let her build a castle on our sacrifice and then hang another family's crest on the gates. I closed the ledger, tied the ribbon back around it, and placed it in the drawer. I knew what I was doing now, and I wasn't stopping until the whole truth stood tall, right where everyone could see it. A week later, we sat around Evan's parents' massive dining table, all candlelight, imported glassware, and a roast so dry I wanted to apologize to the cow. Anna had insisted on the dinner. Just something cozy, she'd said over text. Intimate, low stress. Translation, a power move, a way to showcase the new family dynamic, with me tucked into the corner like a distant cousin. Decorative, not vital. Fine. I dressed plainly, wore the same pearl earrings I wore to her graduation, the ones she once said made me look dignified, back when she still cared what I looked like. There were 12 of us, including Evan's extended family and a few scattered cousins. I smiled, nodded, stayed quiet, until dessert. That's when Anna, swirling wine in her glass like she'd trained for it, said casually, "You know, Mom forgets things lately. She paid the florist twice last month. We had to untangle the whole mess." She said it lightly, laughing like it was a cute story. But I saw the glance she gave Sandra, the quiet little smirk. I felt heat rise in my cheeks, not shame, anger, controlled, but sharp. I reached into my purse, pulled out a folded receipt, and placed it gently on the table beside my teacup. "Strange," I said softly. "I remembered to pay them this morning. Just once. In full." I didn't look at Anna when I said it. I looked at Sandra. She blinked, tilted her head, didn't smile back. The table fell quiet. A cousin coughed into his napkin. Someone's fork clicked nervously against a plate. Anna's hand froze on her wine glass. She tried to recover. "Oh, I must have been thinking of something else." "No worries," I said. "That's why I keep everything documented. Makes it easier when people get confused." She didn't speak after that, but I watched her flush spread down her neck like spilled ink. Sandra changed the subject, asking someone about travel insurance. I sipped my tea slowly. The paper sat there for another 15 minutes before Anna finally reached for it, folding it, tucking it away like it was hers. Let her keep it. That little rectangle of truth, because tonight wasn't about me raising my voice or defending my role. It was about showing, without apology, that I see everything now, and that I'm no longer afraid of the silence that follows the truth. After that dinner, something shifted in me, not emotionally, strategically, because Anna didn't just try to embarrass me with that she forgets things jab. She was testing the waters, seeing how far she could twist the story before someone challenged her. That's when I realized this isn't just about wedding money. This is about control. And if she was willing to lie out loud at a formal dinner table, I needed to find out what else she'd been doing behind closed doors. So I started where women like me always start the paperwork drawer. I went digging, not through memories or old cards, through every transaction with my name on it. Within the hour, I found things I hadn't noticed before. Not because I was forgetful, but because I'd trusted her. A failed loan application using my full name, birth date, and social security number. Denied due to insufficient verified income. The application date? 3 weeks after Anna got engaged. Real estate emails from a realtor I'd never spoken to, listing me as financial guarantor on a townhouse Evan had been eyeing during the same time they claimed to be just browsing. I had no memory of agreeing to that, because I hadn't. And worst of all, text messages from cousins and a niece quietly forwarded to me. "Don't worry, my mom's paying for all of it. She just doesn't know yet." My mom always caves. She's got the money. I'm just giving her a reason to use it. I sat at the kitchen table, heart pounding. Not from shock, but from how methodical it all was. This wasn't a one-time overstep. It was a pattern. She hadn't just turned me into a blank check. She was building a paper trail that painted me as both the financier and the fool. Like I'd signed off on everything, then forgotten about it. Like I was slipping. That's what she was counting on, wasn't it? To spend freely in my name, then act like I was confused if I questioned it. Not anymore. I scanned every document. Forwarded everything to Miss Carter with the subject line, "Found more." Then I picked up Tom's old reading glasses, the ones I kept in the drawer, even though they didn't fit my face, and slid them on anyway. I didn't need them, but they made me feel sharper, because I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was an investigator, and I was building my own case, one page at a time. I waited until evening to play the voicemail, the one I'd been avoiding for days. Anna had left it the morning after our dinner with Evan's family. I'd seen the missed call, read the transcript, and let it sit in my inbox like spoiled food in the fridge. But now, with a stack of printed evidence beside me and Miss Carter drafting legal notices by the hour, I finally hit play. Her voice filled my kitchen. Too loud, too sweet. "Mom, I wish you wouldn't make things harder than they have to be. I know you're upset, but this is my wedding. It's about Evan and me, not about you. You should be grateful I even include you at all. Okay? I love you, but you're making this really difficult. Please try to be reasonable." Click. Silence. I didn't cry. I just sat there, in the glow of the microwave clock and the soft hum of the fridge, staring at the empty chair across from me. Tom's chair. He used to sit there with his reading glasses sliding down his nose, bills fanned out in front of him, muttering about hidden fees and the gall of these caterers. We always joked that he'd do the math and I'd do the baking. Now I did both. And tonight, I sat alone with a cold cup of tea and the unmistakable sound of my own daughter's voice telling me to be grateful she hadn't erased me completely. Grateful. The word pulsed in my ears. I looked at the framed photo on the counter, Tom holding Anna at 5 years old, both of them laughing in the backyard as he sprayed her with the hose. The same hose I rolled up every summer. The same backyard I'd nearly sold to pay her tuition. She wanted me quiet, invisible, generous but never present, helpful but never heard. She thought motherhood was a service she could cancel without notice. But here's the thing she forgot. I don't need her permission to stop giving. I closed the voicemail, deleted it. Then I opened a blank page in my notebook, the kind with thick pages and no lines. At the top, I wrote, "Final contributions, Margaret Harris." And I started a list, not of what I'd paid for, but what I'd finished. Because that voicemail, that wasn't her pulling away. That was her burning the bridge. And I've spent too many years building bridges to stand on one that's already on fire. I went to church that Sunday, not out of habit, out of defiance. I sat in the third pew from the back, the same one Tom and I used to take when Anna was little and restless. Back then, she'd crawl into his lap halfway through the sermon, and he'd whisper the verses in her ear so quietly the pastor didn't even notice. Now the pew was cold, empty, just me and the hymnal. I knew people had seen the Facebook post, the comment, the silence afterward, and I knew how this town worked. Before the opening prayer, I heard them. 2 women behind me, kind voices, but not kind words. Poor Margaret. I heard she's getting confused lately. Anna says it's been hard for the family to manage things. They didn't mean harm. They thought they were being gentle. But I've learned that gossip wrapped in sympathy is still a knife. I could feel my cheeks flush. That old, heavy shame tried to rise in my chest. The kind that makes you want to shrink, to disappear before someone makes a scene. But then I looked down at my purse. Inside it were copies of everything. The florist contract, the realtor emails, the loan denial in my name. My name. Not Anna's. I wasn't confused. I was betrayed. I stood when the music began, head high, hands steady. I sang the verses like I'd done for 40 years, even when I couldn't carry a tune, even when Tom's funeral had left my voice shaking. And I realized something as the chorus echoed through the sanctuary. This place, these people, didn't know the full story. They'd only heard Anna's version. The version where I was frail, forgetful, burdensome. She'd whispered it into phone calls, Sunday brunches, little concerns about how I wasn't herself lately. She'd been laying the groundwork for months, maybe years, because it's easier to push someone aside when you've already convinced the world they're fading. But I'm not fading. I've never been sharper. After the service, I walked out slowly, nodding at every person I passed. Some gave me wide smiles. Some avoided my eye. One even offered to help me to my car. "No need," I said kindly. I still remember where I parked. I may not have shouted. I may not have confronted anyone, but I showed up. I stood tall. And sometimes, that's the loudest truth of all. The invitation came 3 days later, hand-delivered no less. Cream cardstock, gold lettering, probably from Sandra's preferred print shop. Please join us for a final planning dinner, Friday at 6:30, Cambria Grill. Anna and Evan, I stared at the envelope for a long time. The old me might have declined, or worse, shown up politely, quietly, hoping to be included without incident. Let them have the spotlight, smile through it, swallow the lump in my throat, and offer to cover the valet. Not this time. This wasn't an invitation. It was a stage. And I was ready for my scene. I texted Miss Carter. "They've invited me to a wedding dinner, Friday night, Cambria Grill. Should I bring the folder?" She wrote back. "Bring two," I replied. I spent that afternoon assembling it all. Not out of vengeance, out of clarity. Every florist invoice, every deposit confirmation, the loan application using my name and social, the realtor, emails, the screenshot, the voicemail transcript. I organized them into labeled tabs, printed on heavy paper, not the flimsy kind. This wasn't just proof, it was presentation. Tom would have been proud. He always said a well-labeled folder was more powerful than a loud argument. Friday came. I wore a navy blazer and low heels, neat, unshakable. I did my hair like I used to when I worked front desk at the county building, back when people listened to me. Miss Carter met me in the parking lot. No briefcase, just a small leather binder and the kind of walk that said she belonged in any room. "Ready?" she asked. More than ever. Inside, the dining room buzzed with soft music and polished voices. Anna looked surprised to see Miss Carter, just for a second, then smiled with her teeth. "Oh, you brought someone." I did. Evan's parents sat across from us, flanked by wine and confidence. Sandra was wearing pearls again. Anna raised a glass. "We're just so grateful to have 4 parents making this dream possible." That was her opening act. I nodded, then calmly placed the folder onto the white tablecloth between the wine glasses and the linen napkins. Miss Carter rested her hand beside it. The table quieted. A waiter slowed. Even Evan looked over, eyebrows lifting. I didn't smile. I didn't blink. I just said, evenly, "Before we move forward, I thought we should all take a look at exactly who's been making this dream possible." And I opened the folder. The trap was set, and no one at that table, not even Anna, saw how fast the floor was about to give out from under them. For a moment, the only sound at the table was the soft clink of a spoon in someone's untouched soup. Sandra lowered her glass. Evan shifted in his seat, trying to read the tabs on the folder like he was hoping it was a scrapbook. Anna kept smiling, but her eyes had changed. Wide, calculating. Miss Carter slid the first document forward. The screenshot. "Happy Mother's Day to my real mom." Sandra's photo. Anna's caption. My comment beneath it. Preserved, printed, undeniable. "Wait, what is this?" Sandra asked, her voice tilting just slightly. "I thought you said that was photoshopped." Anna didn't answer. Miss Carter flipped to the next section. Invoices. Every florist deposit. Every catering payment. Every venue check. Dated, signed, all paid by me. "We understand Evan's parents bought the dress," Miss Carter said, professional, even-toned. "But the rest? You'll find nearly $19,000 worth of services under Miss Harris's name, without acknowledgement, and now without consent." Evan's face turned pale. Sandra looked between them. "You told us you were covering everything now," she whispered. Anna cleared her throat, tried to laugh. "This feels dramatic." I didn't look at her. I turned to Sandra. "Did you know your future daughter-in-law applied for a loan in my name?" Miss Carter slid that document forward next. The denied application. No one touched their drinks. I could feel the energy in the restaurant shift. A waiter hovering nearby went still, listening. A couple at the next table paused mid-conversation. Then came the final page. The voicemail transcript. You should be grateful I even include you at all. I didn't speak. I let the words sit there. Let Anna read them, written out plainly in her own voice. Word for word. Anna reached for the paper, but her hand hovered, like it burned to touch it. I didn't mean it like that, she said finally. Evan looked like he wanted to melt into his chair. You've built this wedding on lies, Miss Carter said. Financial lies, emotional manipulation. And from this moment on, Margaret Harris is withdrawing from all contracts. Wait, Anna stammered. You can't just back out now. Everything's already booked. That's not my problem anymore, I said quietly. Sandra stood. We'll need to speak to our son. Alone. Anna's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Around us, the room buzzed with whispers, and I felt still, like the eye of a storm I'd been walking toward for months. The truth was out, and no one, not even Anna, could talk over it now. I don't remember anyone touching their food after that. The waiter came by to refill water and glanced down at the papers. His hand shook slightly. He didn't say a word. Anna sat frozen, her jaw tight. I could see the panic building behind her eyes, like a dam about to crack. She looked at Evan for help, but he kept his gaze fixed on the table. He didn't defend her. He didn't say a word. And Sandra, so smooth, so composed, looked suddenly exhausted. She kept dabbing her napkin at the corner of her mouth like it could wipe away the truth. Miss Carter pushed the final envelope across the table. This is a certified letter sent to every vendor as of this afternoon, she said. It includes proof of financial contribution and legal notice of withdrawal. Ms. Harris is no longer a financial participant. All future invoices, changes, or responsibilities are to be directed elsewhere. Anna finally snapped. You're making a scene. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I didn't see the daughter I raised. I saw a woman so desperate to be seen a certain way that she'd stepped over the one person who would have done anything for her. No, sweetheart, I said. You made the scene. I'm just handing out the program. The air at the table went flat. Then, a sound I'll never forget. Applause, not loud, just a single clap, followed by another. From a table 2 rows over, 2 older women I knew from town, giving me nods of quiet approval. Anna whipped her head toward them. This is my dinner. But the moment was gone. Evan finally spoke. You told me she offered all that money. You said she begged to be involved. I raised my eyebrows. I have the texts, if anyone's curious. Anna stood up, knocking her napkin to the floor. This isn't fair. You're ruining everything. Miss Carter closed her binder. Everything you built on someone else's dime is now your responsibility. Sandra rose slowly. We'll be in touch, she said to Evan. Her voice clipped. Clearly there are things to discuss. Anna turned back to me, eyes wide with something like grief. But I didn't flinch. I didn't soften. She burned this bridge. I just lit the truth so everyone could see what she'd done. As they left the table, Anna brushed past me, silent, shaking. I didn't watch her go. I stayed seated, sipped my water, and for the first time in months, I felt full, not from food, but from something stronger. Justice. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:18 a.m., not Anna, not Evan. The venue. Hi, Mrs. Harris. We received your attorney's letter, just confirming you've officially withdrawn and will no longer be responsible for the final balance. That's correct, I said. We're terribly sorry for any confusion. We'll be in contact with the bride directly. I hung up and sat in silence for a moment, staring at my coffee. That was the first domino. By noon, 3 more fell. The florist called to say Anna had tried to switch the account name, but without a new guarantor, the order was on hold. The caterer emailed, requesting immediate payment or a scaled-down menu. And the photographer, the one I had booked on a friend's recommendation, sent a simple message. Margaret, I'm out. I saw the post. I won't be part of this kind of treatment. The collapse had begun. No yelling, no fire, just quiet, administrative unraveling. And the best part? It wasn't my mess to clean. I spent that day sorting through old boxes, finally donating some of Tom's unused tools to the church repair fund. As I loaded the car, I felt light for the first time in weeks. Anna had taken so much, emotionally, financially, spiritually, but she hadn't taken the one thing I still held in full: choice. I had chosen to stop funding my own humiliation, chosen to walk away from a daughter who saw me as a utility, not a mother, chosen to protect Tom's name and mine from being dragged through the glitter of a wedding that pretended we didn't exist. Later that afternoon, Ms. Carter sent me a final summary of the withdrawal notices. Subject line: all contracts cleared, you're free. I read it 3 times. Let the words settle in my bones. Then I stepped out onto my porch, a glass of iced tea in hand, and sat in the same rocking chair Tom used to love. The air was warm, the sky streaked with late summer clouds. A neighbor passed by, waved. "Heard about the dinner," she said softly. "Good for you." I smiled. Not smug, not bitter, just grounded. The truth had done its job. No shouting, no spectacle, just receipts and restraint. Anna once said I should be grateful she included me. But what she didn't realize was this: I no longer needed inclusion. I had boundaries. And boundaries, when enforced, feel an awful lot like power. By the end of the week, the whispers had turned into phone calls. First from family, then from guests, then from Evan's side. I didn't respond to most. I didn't have to. People talk, especially when a wedding starts falling apart 30 days out. And in a town like ours, they talk loudest when the bride's own mother walks away with a folder and a lawyer. The story was already out there. No, the truth was out there. Did you hear Margaret backed out? I heard she paid for half the wedding and never got a thank you. Apparently the daughter called someone else her real mom. Oof, that'll do it. And then came the real blow. Evan's parents withdrew. Not loudly, not with drama, just a quiet statement relayed through a cousin. We're stepping back from the planning. It's clear there are family matters that need resolving. Translation? They were embarrassed. They didn't want their name tangled in deception and dysfunction, especially not publicly, especially not now. Anna tried to patch it together. She really did. I heard she met with a local bakery for a last-minute cake, that she called a discount DJ, that she begged a friend's brother to take iPhone photos in exchange for exposure, but you can't rebuild a house on a broken foundation. And now people were whispering before they RSVP'd, is the wedding still happening? I thought it was canceled. I don't want to get involved. Some vendors asked to be paid in full, up front, no deposits. They didn't trust her. Even family started distancing themselves. A few cousins who'd always defended Anna sent me messages. We didn't know how bad it was. I'm sorry for not asking your side. You were right to walk away. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. This wasn't about revenge. This was the natural consequence of truth. Once you set it free, it works all by itself. And Anna? Well, she stayed quiet. I didn't get another text. No apology. No message. Just silence. But I saw the cracks on social media. Her posts less cheerful, her captions more strained. The sparkle had dimmed. The dream wedding was now a patched-up shadow limping toward the finish line. And me? I slept like a stone. Because I hadn't screamed. I hadn't slammed doors. I had simply told the truth on paper with dates and signatures. And it was stronger than any tantrum, prettier than any dress, and louder than any Facebook caption. Anna had wanted to write me out of the story. Now the story was writing itself, and she couldn't stop it. The wedding wasn't canceled. That would have taken humility. Instead, Anna pushed forward, like if she just smiled wide enough, no one would notice the cracks behind her teeth. But cracks have a way of showing, especially in daylight. I didn't attend. Of course I didn't. But I heard plenty. Not from gossip, from photos, from the neighbor's niece who went out of pity, from the florist's assistant who texted me a single line the next morning. You really dodged a bullet. The $35,000 fantasy? It had shrunk into something far more fragile. The venue had been replaced with Sandra's backyard. A sprawling lawn, yes, but one still soft from recent rain. The rental company hadn't delivered floor panels, and the plastic chairs kept sinking into the mud. Guests wore linen shoes and polite smiles. The food came in aluminum trays from a local deli, decent but lukewarm. They ran out of napkins. One uncle slipped on wet grass carrying a plate of potato salad and left halfway through with a bruised hip and a ruined sport coat. The string quartet? Gone. A Bluetooth speaker sat under a folding table, cutting in and out when someone walked too far from the playlist. But the photos told the real story. Evan's suit didn't fit. Borrowed, not tailored. Sandra looked tired, defeated. Her pearls were gone. Anna's dress was beautiful, yes, but it hung heavy on her. The joy that once danced in her face was nowhere to be found. Her smile looked forced, her shoulders too high, her hands clenched in every frame. And the flowers? Grocery store bundles, wilting under the sun, rubber-banded into mason jars, like a last-minute craft project. I stared at the pictures longer than I should have. Not because I was gloating, but because I was mourning. She could have had it all. A proper wedding, the vendors, the grace, the legacy. She could have had a mother who showed up early to fix her veil and stayed late to box up the leftover cake. But she didn't want me in the picture. And now, I wasn't. And neither was the life she'd tried so hard to fake. Her fantasy had collapsed, not because of me, but because of her own choices, stitched together with pride, stitched without gratitude. And pride, when stretched too far, will always tear. 1 year later, on Mother's Day, I woke to a knock at the door. Early, just after 7. I pulled on Tom's sweater and shuffled to the porch, expecting a package. What I found was flowers everywhere. Big, bursting bouquets lined the steps. A few in vases, most just wrapped in brown paper and tied with ribbon. Daffodils, peonies, lilacs. No two alike. Each had a card. For the real mom. We remember. Thank you for being who you are. Should have said it sooner. I stood there for a long time, letting the morning sun warm my shoulders as the scent of fresh blossoms filled the air. Some cards were signed, cousins, nieces, neighbors. Some weren't. They didn't have to be. Because I knew what this was. This was the ripple. This was what happens when you stop begging to be loved the way you deserve and start living like you already are. Inside, my phone buzzed. 12 new messages. Happy Mother's Day, Margaret. Thinking of you. You showed us how to hold the line with grace. Then, another message. From Anna. Just one line. I hope you're happy. No apology. No reflection. Just bitterness disguised as a peace offering. I didn't answer. Not out of anger, but because silence is its own kind of boundary. She made her choices, and I made mine. I walked out to the porch swing, arms full of flowers, and set the biggest bouquet soft yellow roses in the center of the table. Next to it, I placed the wedding binder. Still full, still neat, untouched since that night. I didn't open it. I didn't need to, because the real record wasn't in that folder. It was in every person who had seen me stay calm while being erased, every vendor who chose integrity, every neighbor who whispered, "Good for you," on their way to work. This wasn't about a wedding anymore. This was about worth, about choosing not to fund the life that cuts you out of it, about refusing to be the silent sponsor of your own disrespect. And here's the part Anna never understood. If you call someone else your real mom, be ready for them to handle your future, because the woman you erased, she might just erase herself from your debt, your damage, and your disaster, and still land on her feet. I leaned back on the porch swing, surrounded by blooms I didn't have to buy, from people who weren't pretending. And for the first time in years, I didn't need a Facebook post to know the truth. I already knew who the real mother was. So did everyone else. Thank you for listening to the end of Margaret's story. What would you have done if your own child called someone else their real mom? Let me know in the comments.